Today's topic is the role and value of mediation in managing contentious issues surrounding family dynamics and elder care. And we have with us today a learned member, Sheldon Forehand of Forehand Mediation. Sheldon is a certified mediator, certified professional mediator, and he's the owner of Forehand Mediation. He is certified by the Idaho Mediation Association and listed by the Idaho Supreme Court for a child custody mediation. For the past 20 years, he has worked in the conflict management business, helping youth and adults work through challenging obstacles at the county and state levels. As a mediator, he helps clients open lines of communication, identify issues, find common ground, and ultimately reach a solution that everyone can live with. His primary objective in all cases is to provide a quality professional forum in which decisions are reached in a constructive process. His engaging style draws upon his nearly 3 decades of life stories and experience at helping at-risk youth and adults work through crisis and challenging obstacles. His empathy, curiosity, dedication, and storytelling help him to immediately connect with people. His unique approach recognizes recent advancements in understanding how our brains are wired. His calm, honest, and direct approach enables clients to escape their classic fight or flight reactions to activate higher level executive functions. People can think clearly and avoid habitual patterns that make a conflict worse. Aside from being a member of LEARN, he is a board member of the Idaho Mediation Association and previously worked in sales and marketing with Johnson & Johnson and Thomas Reuters. He also worked as a probation officer, and he graduated from Boise State University with a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. And he went to Boise State on a football scholarship. Go Broncos. So at this time, it's my distinct pleasure to turn it over to Sheldon. And again, thank you, Sheldon, for sharing your time and your expertise with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, you guys. Really appreciate this opportunity to be able to provide some information in the world that I live in currently. As previously mentioned, the topic today, the role and value of mediation in managing contentious issues surrounding family dynamics and elder care. Mediation consists of negotiations. Just to give you guys brief background in regards to what mediation really is, I'm not really sure. And that's one of the questions I will definitely pose to the group here in regards to mediation and who has actually experienced it. Mediation consists of negotiations between disputing parties, assisted by a neutral third party like myself, and is defined as the intervention into a dispute or negotiation by an acceptable, impartial, neutral third party with no decision-making power. You know, one of the things on this particular side you guys to really consider is that, you know, as a mediator, we really have no power in these meetings, in these sessions, in these negotiations. It is basically up to the parties involved to come up with the agreement to be able to allow the family members to move on. We're really there to assist in these matters, and hopefully in a voluntarily you reach an agreement between the two parties. Just a few points here. Mediation in itself is a private, confidential, and completely voluntary. It can be court ordered. In other states, I find that happens quite often, you guys. Mediation for this particular segment of the population, elder care, to actually be court ordered. In the state of Idaho, I really do not find that occurring too often. The cases, just talking about my practice, usually individuals find me that are having these particular issues in the family. The breakdown usually is the breakdown in communication with the families. Mediation is an alternative to court-based decision-making. One of the things that I really emphasize in a lot of my meetings, you guys, is would you rather have someone make a decision for you? In the process of mediation, you actually have that power, as I call it. The basic problem-solving process of mediation is a series of stages. There's an introduction, There's the opening statement that really consists of the rules that we will play by during mediation. We will identify and explore issues. We will brainstorm options mutually to achieve a common goal and obtain an agreement. Elder care and mediation works best when older adults have sufficient capacity to participate as rational and autonomous adults. However, adult guardianship cases common concerns adults are allegedly incapacitated. The process allows families to create workable and mutual acceptable solutions to their difficult disputes. Just some background into the world of mediation. Mediation has been around for a very long time, you guys. The courts began encouraging alternative dispute resolution in the 70s as court dockets became increasingly more congested. In my practice, what I deal with on a day-to-day basis are more so child custody cases. People get divorced every day. There's a backlog of cases to deal with. So really my practice consists quite often of child custody cases. During the process, one of the things is trying to develop communication strategies to enable families to be successful, to work together, to make important decisions in the future. Some of the pros of mediation, obviously, I've seen cases, everyone, where there are 4 siblings involved and they all have attorneys. If you can think about the amount of costs that would incur on a family when families are arguing about a particular situation related to a family member like the parents. So the pros of mediation are obviously is the reduced cost. The process is faster. Courts take months and in some cases years. I've seen cases come to me where they've been to court about 3 or 4 times, and it's been an ongoing situation for about 14 months. That's the longest one I've actually dealt with, about 14 months, where the family members are in litigation. It gives you an opportunity to set a positive tone, to restore friendships and family relationships. Really, mediation allows the family members to kind of rebuild their relationship, which is critical. What I find in many situations, there is a need of understanding. It is important to acknowledge your parents' fears regarding their future and their disappointment with not being able to function independently. I think that is a really important part, that the individual itself, if they can, to participate in the process, let them know that you understand how difficult this situation is. Then also try to imagine how frightening it would be for you or to no longer be able to have the same level of physical security you do today, but be able to make decisions for yourself. Many times when I meet with individuals, the difficult part is almost starting over in my sessions. Many times individuals have no idea what the mediation process is like. So obviously I spend a little bit of time really educating individuals in regards to the do's and don'ts, but also where their power lies in the mediation process. So some of the things that I try to through my intake process, providing question sheets, questionnaires. So be ready to hear both sides, know your strengths and weaknesses, really have a reality check with yourself, be prepared for your points to be questioned, because remember, this is a negotiation. Have your key interest in the dispute, estimate the cost of litigation, and also willing to confide in the mediator. So the word caucus, basically what that allows myself and one of the individuals is to break out into our own session to communicate. In some situations, I will actually start off the mediation process individually and then try to bring all family members together. If the line of self-communication are breaking out, I will do what is called caucusing, or speaking to each individual one-on-one. This example with the sisters, this is these two examples that I'm providing to you guys today. These are real life examples. This particular case, you have two sisters, obviously, and dad was still alive, but dad was in need of assistance. They didn't speak to each other for 2 months before they reached out to me. And I would say within 4 hours of mediating with me, and I get a lot of gratification out of this, you guys. They were crying, hugging, and back on the same page. Many times what I find is most people really, the biggest problem is most people want to be heard. And when the lines of communication have broken down, obviously no one's listening to each other. In many situations as well, what I find is the issues between the siblings, if they're siblings, relates back to childhood. The breakdown in communication. It usually doesn't have anything related to do with the issues currently. Now, in this particular situation, it was one sister had medical background. The other sister, who was actually taking care of the father, did not believe the sister had the best interest in the father. It was more about the financial part of it, with the properties, et cetera. But as I said, after about 4 hours of speaking with this family member, they were on the same page. And just to give you some of the things that they were willing to decide to do is obviously not just calling each other, but doing a virtual call with each other at least twice a week. Because one of the sisters actually lived out of state, the one with the medical background. Once I started doing that, the steps that we decided to do is the 2 communications per week virtually, where they could see each other and talk to each other. And after about 2 weeks of doing that, they were completely, they no longer needed my services, and everything was working out great. This example number 2 was a little more trickier, you guys. There was a ton of assets involved. One party had pretty much all the control of the finances. The other party was concerned in regards to how the financials were being used. And in mediation, one of the things that a mediator should be doing is providing information, providing education in regards to steps to take to protect each other. In this particular situation, I think I met with this particular example here about 5 times. This was a little difficult. Both sides had attorneys, but I was able to keep them out of litigation. Any questions so far? Any more questions?
There is a question in the chat, Sheldon, and this comes from D. Childers. How do you connect with other mediators to participate in a mediation? And then is there a local professional mediator association?
Yeah, I'm actually a member, but also I'm on the board of the Idaho Mediations Association. So I communicate with mediators weekly. I've done some co-mediating in the past as well on very difficult cases where a different perspective may be needed. I've brought in other mediators to help me on a case when I didn't feel like maybe the way I was presenting was affecting the session in the appropriate manner. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Did that answer your question?
Yes, I was just trying to get to my unmute. Yes, thank you.
Oh.
Our mute button.
So does anyone here have any other experiences with?
Sheldon, actually, there is another question, if I may.
Okay, no, you're fine. Yeah.
Elizabeth Edwards, and the question is, what is the percentage of wins that you experience in mediation as compared to mediations that don't work out?
So what is my success rate, I believe is the question?
It sounds like if you want to equate wins with success rate, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So at the, I would say, this is my honest opinion. As a mediator, I do not look at success rate. What I do look at is the opportunity, the willingness of parties to negotiate. Now, obviously, the majority of my business or in my practice is court mandated mediation. But in this particular world here, as far as elder care, dealing with family members is completely voluntary. Usually I do not find that individuals are being court mandated to mediate with me. Really the goal in any of these particular situations here is to rebuild the family network, if that makes sense. So personally in my practice, do I chart wins and losses? No, I do not. No, I do not.
Sheldon, this is Dee Childers again, and I am a certified elder mediator, but through COVID, kind of lost track of the association. So
okay.
I put that out there that we should connect.
We definitely should. I think I met you. Well, I'll continue, but we'll talk on the side. But thank you. Absolutely. One of the key things to really understand, until a judge signs something, an agreement actually is not binding. There is nothing final until both parties agree and sign off on the agreement as related in session, but it is not an actual decree, a court decree, until a judge actually signs it. So it's very important that people really understand that. In this particular setting here, the goal, as I mentioned earlier, is to basically be able to get both parties to the table to figure out a plan to move forward in the process of dealing with their conflict. Keep in mind, why families want is what is best for elder family members may disagree over what is best entails, and conflict erupts over who will care for, have access to, and make decisions for the family member. For family members, the process is not graceful at times, and some family members are faced with making difficult decisions. And I think in mediation, I think that is critical for that mediator to really understand that this is a very difficult time. One of the reasons why I actually started getting into this particular segment of mediation in my family, I actually went through dealing with end of life. In the last 16 months, I've dealt with 2 situations, and it really opened my eyes in regards to what family members really go through. As a result, adult siblings may find themselves in court arguing over decisions for elder parents. When conflict occurs, obviously there are tons of problems to deal with, and obviously what causes these problems to occur. The experience in families suggests that there are several potential sources of conflict commonly experienced in these families. This slide really covers really what I've seen in my practice related to mediation in this particular segment of each person's role, the who, the what, the when, where, and how it's going to be done. Actually trying to define what the problem is, and what type of care is actually needed, the value, the attitude, or belief differences in regards to what should occur, the decision-making process. As I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest things that I've seen in some of the cases that I handled is actually people feeling like they're being heard and being taken seriously. Unresolved prior conflicts, as I mentioned earlier as well. I've seen situations where it is a childhood situation that has broken down the communication line between the family members. A lack of communication and miscommunication, and suitable solutions, which Learn provides, which is a great resource. So as everyone here knows. Any questions on this particular sheet here, on this particular slide?
Sheldon, there is another question, not pertaining to that particular slide, but do
Okay.
all of your mediations result in a legal agreement, or are you sometimes used before a conflict gets to the point of needing a legal intervention?
So both. But as I mentioned, as I stated before, in mediation, nothing really is final until a judge signs off on it. I've had situations before attorneys are even brought into the picture, or there have been any type of litigation. I've been brought in to help mediate and resolve the issues before they escalate. Some things to consider. Attorneys whose clients have the benefit of mediation will have more confidence in their clients and are truly of one mind about their intentions. Okay. Basically working hand in hand with attorneys. I have done that in the past. And what I find is the level of trust does grow related to the family members. The practice of using mediation to resolve will and trust disputes, and will and trust disputes is in its adolescence. The practice is using mediation during estate planning before any disputes arise is in its infancy. For better outcomes, utilizing mediation during the planning stage before they have the chance to damage important relationships. I think it's just very critical that issues are identified and solutions are provided. Mediators help families figure out their issues, and some of the issues could be related to where's the best place for mom and dad? Should mom and dad still be driving? That is a huge one. I actually experienced that situation as well. Who will care for the family member, and what kind of care do they actually need? How will their care be paid for, which is huge, as everyone here knows. What kind of end-of-life care do they want? Who should have financial or medical power of attorney of them as well? And yes, usually I am dealing with a family that is fractured. I would obviously prefer for everyone to be on the same page in mediation, but that takes time. Many of the same dynamics that make mediation the process of choice for separating and divorcing couples are present in trust and estate cases, and ethical and practical complexities that exist for attorneys representing fiduciary add an additional advantage to the use of mediation, to the mediation process. Early intervention will allow many of these trust and estate cases to be resolved before the lines are so sharply drawn, and attorneys representing fiduciary beneficiaries are well positioned to refer cases to mediation early on. I've actually worked with attorneys, and utilizing mediation is actually something that attorneys that deal with this type of law are really wanting to use. As I stated earlier, in the state of Idaho, it's used, but not in the same level in other states that I've found. Yes.
And there is a question in the chat: who pays for mediation?
The individuals, they split the costs of the mediation. Now, in other cases, particularly like child custody, which is the bulk of my business, court-assisted programs are available for family members that are financially challenged that way. So yeah, there are other options for them as well. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the four horsemen. It's more so related to why most relationships fail, but it definitely pertains in any type of dispute between family members or loved ones. You know, the stonewalling, there's four of them, obviously, the four horsemen. The stonewalling is, tuning out, ignoring, or sometimes there's a level of fear based on shutting down. Criticism, there's always a lot of blame being thrown around. As I stated, the four horsemen was developed based on why marriages fail. But in my practice, whenever I deal in high conflict, particularly elder care, I see all of these examples. They're criticizing each other. They're very defensive. And this is one of the reasons in my intro, when I'm meeting with family members, the rules of engagement, as I call them, it is very critical that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. And contempt, obviously there could be verbal abuse or no opportunity for joining or actually developing a resolution or coming to a resolution. So some of the drawbacks, all parties cannot be compelled to partake in the mediation process, as I stated before, particularly if we're talking about elder cases for mediation in this state. All of my cases have been family members reaching out to me, okay, or they've been referred by their attorney, but it is voluntary. The parties with the authority to settle may be unavailable or unwilling to negotiate. Either party can withdraw. Even in court-mandated mediation, people can withdraw. Now, there are consequences behind that, obviously, with court-mandated mediation that one needs to consider with that as well. There are no formal rules guiding the mediation process. Through training, through years of doing this, I've developed my own guide in regards to handling these particular cases. Abraham Lincoln obviously was an attorney, but I love this quote by him: "Discourage litigation, persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. As a peacemaker, the lawyer has a superior opportunity of being a good man. There will still be business enough." One of the ways to look at mediation, in this process, conflict turns into opportunity. When the common ground is uncovered, the concerns of all parties are listened to, and the areas of compromise are identified. It also helps that the conflict is framed as a problem to be solved rather than a battle to be won. Before I move on, one of the things that I will say, I have had cases where individuals are literally litigating in front of me. Those are types of situations where mediation is never going to work. I think many times some people come in with the notion. I've had people come in with evidence. I don't look at evidence as a mediator, you guys. Basically, the two parties need to figure out what's in the best interest of the family member. And I say this in every session, any type of session: mediation is your power. Use it wisely.